In the past few videos, I've only talked about all Haitham's numbers. Now, it's time to go back to team building discussions again. I've already made some videos regarding his potential teams, mentioning how he fits on Quicken or Bloom compositions, but today I will go more on detail regarding a specific topic I've been asked about several times. I will talk about how he compares to Tighnari in terms of team construction, highlighting the differences between using him and Sumeru's best Forest Watcher, to provide an answer for those who already have Tighnari and might be on the fence about pulling for Haitham. Right off the bat, it's pretty easy to spot the differences between Tighnari and Haitham's potential kit functions, even just by looking at their cooldowns. Haitham's cooldowns are 18 seconds long across the board, while Tighnari boasts 12 seconds long cooldowns on both his elemental skill and his elemental burst. I've pointed this out because cooldowns are a crucial part when you start analyzing things like rotation length. In fact, since both Haitham and Tighnari are often important on-field characters for their teams, the rotation length for those is usually set in a way it accommodates their cooldown requirements and maximizes their damage potential. What I'm trying to say is that, since Tighnari has lower cooldowns than Haitham, he runs on teams that use considerably shorter rotation than his, meaning his teams can function in a completely different way despite having the same baseline. Just take Fischl as an example. She's a really contested character for Dendro spread teams, as she provides continuous Electro Application through Oz, who, at Constellation 6, will target the opponents your active character is attacking at any given time. She's unique, because her elemental skill and burst essentially do the same thing, as they're both means to spawn Oz. For these reasons, even if her skill and burst have high cooldowns, she can usually alternate them to have 100% Oz uptime throughout a 25 seconds rotation. However, for that to be possible, she needs to have a small window of uptime midway through the rotation to recast Oz. On a Tighnari team, this is extremely viable, as he's a character with low field requirements if compared to other main damage dealers, meaning you can easily find a window on his teams for Fischl to do her job. On the contrary, this is just not possible on all Haitham teams, because he often occupies the field for 12 or 13 seconds per rotation, so Fischl is just not allowed to be at full potential when paired with him. This creates several riddles for Haitham to solve, as Fischl's perfect functioning on Dendro teams is the key to make other non-Dendro characters easier to use as well. For example, Yae. Yae is a character with very high energy requirements, so when she's used on Dendro teams, she's often paired with Fischl, who is one of the few characters in the game that can effectively alleviate her requirements. Without a battery like her on team, it's very likely that she'd be forced to use her burst every other rotation instead of every rotation. In short, the presence of a main damage dealer with high field requirements on team makes it harder for you to use sub-DPS type of characters with particularly restrictive requirements. The other, and probably the most noticeable difference between Haitham and Tighnari is the ER requirement gap between the two. In fact, thanks to his 40 cost elemental burst, Tighnari never requires a battery on any of his teams, although it's still helpful to use a second Dendro with him in some cases, for other reasons. On the flip side, Haitham comes with a really heavy 70 cost elemental burst, which basically forces you to run a second Dendro unit with him. This means he's less flexible than Tighnari on Quicken compositions, because the latter can be paired with a larger variety of units, such as an emo character like Kazuha, if you're using 2 Electro sub DPS as well. This makes Tighnari really versatile as a Dendro unit, since it does well both on teams that focus on spread and teams that focus on aggravate, while with Haitham, spread is the only way to go. Of course, Haitham has advantages of his own compared to Tighnari. Since he's a full-blown sustained DPS, he carries more of the team's load on his own, since his damage per rotation and DPS are generally higher than Tighnari's. Not only that, but he also has significantly better AoE potential, since his mirror procs appear to be pretty large hits. Still, if running a spread-based team is the only thing you want to do with Haitham, you're probably not going to take advantage of his full potential. In fact, Haitham also has other advantages over Tighnari, which won't necessarily show on Quicken teams. What I mean is that being able to consistently apply Dendro Application for around 13 seconds per rotation is something that Tighnari just can't replicate with his kit, and that gives Haitham a serious edge on basically any team where that continuous Dendro up is required. As I've mentioned in the past, Haitham's best team at release is probably going to be Quick Bloom. Quick Bloom is a type of composition that mixes Hyper Bloom with Quicken, and has a larger ceiling than standard Quicken teams as a result. To summarize how that team works conceptually, as a baseline it plays similarly to how you'd play any other Quicken team, meaning by bringing at least a Dendro unit and an Electro unit to keep the Quicken status up on opponents. The extra part comes from a Hydro unit being on the team as well. This adds other components you have to keep in mind if you don't want to lose team damage. In fact, since Bloom procs disrupt the Quicken status on opponents and weaken the Dendro aura applied on them, you'll need to have consistent sources of Dendro and Electro to continuously reapply Quicken, and get as many spread or aggravate procs as you can. Somebody like Tighnari, who won't stay on field for more than 5 or 6 seconds every 12 seconds, will struggle to keep the Dendro aura up on Quick Bloom teams, which generally run on 20 seconds rotations. Moreover, since he's a charge attack based character, that means he can't drive some of the best Hydro units for Quick Bloom, namely Yelan and Chinkyu. This advantage applies for Haitham on other types of Bloom teams as well, since he's just able to generate Dendro Application more consistently than Tighnari, which favors Bloom generation as a whole. He's more comparable to Nahida than Tighnari in that role, since she's the only one that can potentially surpass Haitham in terms of Dendro Application. What I'm trying to say is that, while Haitham doesn't bring anything necessarily revolutionary or interesting in terms of how spread-based teams will function around him, his real potential relies in how he packs a serious punch in terms of how many different team options he will have. I predict he will be a strong pull for whoever wants a Dendro unit to play around with on several types of Dendro teams. This will be extremely unique for your account if you're also missing Nahida, since she's the only one that can compare to him in terms of Dendro Application. I'm done for today. As always, if you enjoyed the video, leave a thumbs up and subscribe. See you next time.